And with that, I give you Jizzy.
I just
What
okay.
were you, what were you saying?
I like your whole background deal.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I saw these hip hop DJs on Twitch, and they all love rock, so they steal from rock. They stole the brick wall look from rock, so I went and got a Amazon brick wall tarp to bring back the brick wall back in the rock. You know what I mean?
We should go steal Lemmy's statue.
Dude, how amazing would that be?
Yeah.
Imagine if you had the fucking statue in your house. That'd be pretty cool.
I Good night, Lemmy.
Good night. Remember just hanging out there, man? That was such a
Yeah, that was the best. That was one of the cool times because I didn't go to the Rainbow as much as a lot of people. But when I did, he would just be sitting there playing that fucking pinball machine,
yeah.
and he wouldn't say a word, and people left him alone. You know what I mean? They didn't hassle him, and it was perfect. And he lived just above.
Yeah, I think they brought those machines to his place when he was dying. They actually brought one of those machines there so he could play.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I stayed in that B. They turned it into a B&B above the Rainbow, and I
Oh, you stayed
stayed
in that?
there.
How was it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was trippy.
That's crazy. It's wild because when I landed in LA with Jamie, I know you would know Jamie Scrap. We went downtown to Soul House where you were living at the time. And it was
Right.
so weird that a band existed downtown in downtown
Mm-hmm.
LA, and it was such a trip. And
It was good and bad and ugly. It was good because it was cheap. And we all had little rooms
yeah,
and we rehearsed there. And it really, I guess bands don't do that anymore. But it used to be bands used to live together.
a band
You know
house,
what I mean?
band house.
And yeah, but I mean they used to live together, and that creates so much of what a real band is. You know what I mean? The
Yes.
fighting, the creating, the conflict, the good times, the bad times, but it's all shared and it strengthens you and it makes you a strong unit. So yeah, when we were down there, I mean, sometimes it was really harsh. Our cars would get broken into and we would have homeless wars. You know what I mean? So it was tough,
But then it
but
was like you guys were making your own four tracks that sounded as good as Johnny was doing the four tracks there, and you had the art being painted there. It was like the factory or something, like a pit of
well, in
creativity.
a
And
way, it was kind of like Warhol's factory. You know what I mean? In
yeah,
that, I think the best thing about it is that you couldn't think about anything else. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like a lot of guys live in apartments and they go, well, we're going to go rehearse, or, my girlfriend and I are going to go out, but then I'm going to do this band thing. But there was no escape. When you're living together, we have a new song to record. You got to do it. We have to rehearse.
yeah,
The equipment is staring you in the face. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And it really does force you to commit 120% to the gods of rock.
And it's weird. I always say like a band is like a gang mentality, and especially downtown LA, like a real gang mentality when you really go for it. And gangs eventually start shooting each other. It's not it's a gang mentality. At the end of the day, is a stupid mentality. Let's be honest. It becomes, you
But
know,
it helps you when you're in a band. You know what I mean? It strengthens you in a band because it's like the Four Musketeers or the Five Musketeers or whatever. I mean, because you
yeah,
guys did the same thing. You slugged it out on the strip, playing for 20 people every night and then 50 and then 100. And you know what I mean? And that's old school. And I don't know if people do that anymore because a lot of the clubs have been closed down, but the strip will never be what it was and that time will never
yeah.
return. And it was good times.
And shit changed. I always say shit had to change when the stamp was invented. Shit changed when the telephone, when the TV, the Walkman, and the internet. It just changes. The game changes with major
Well, the
community.
strip will never go back to the way it
Yeah,
was. People always ask me that. What was it like back then? It's like trying to describe Woodstock
yeah,
or the Vietnam War. You know what I mean? It's you can't really describe it. You had to be there to sort of live the experience of flyering and putting your flyers on the poles, and
Yeah.
then 5 minutes later someone else covered your flyers, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean. It was just, it seems silly. Very fast times at Ridgemont High, but it was, you know what I mean. It was bands trying to get signed, and it was a real community.
And when I moved out from New Jersey, I read the book No One Gets Out of Here Alive. Obviously, I love that book, and I was looking for that. And to me, and I'm sure you've heard this multiple times, you seem like the Morrison of that era in the strip to me. You really did. Physically,
There were a couple of guys. Remember Jimmy Thrill?
I love Jimmy. There's still Jimmy
Yeah,
Thrill. Yeah,
he
yeah,
was.
yeah.
He had some really cool
Oh
stuff
yeah,
on
Jimmy
him.
Thrill was great.
There were other guys too. You know what I mean? It's just a lot of that time was being at the right place at the right time, luck. You know what I mean? Good songs.
But there's something about, and Jimmy Thrill, just God, how great was Rattlesnake Shake? Just
Yeah,
so real.
they were killer.
So it's just the whole thing. Talk about a gang. But the way you saw things made me realize how to, and which leads to the books, how to look at things. You're poetic guy, that Morris. And I remember Jamie and I were talking. It was after the earthquakes, actually, and he was with this girl Emily on a sidewalk. They were both drinking 40s, and you stopped and were like, poetic. That's art right there. And you saw that at that Bukowski eye before any of us really were reading Bukowski or any of that. You were looking at it that way. That blows my mind. You know, and when he said that, you said that, it's like, that is why their lyrics are so good and things are so, you look at things through that eye.
Well, yeah. I mean, getting to the books, there's definitely that influence of Bukowski, because he was a genius fuck up. He was equal parts poet, idiot. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
He was
yeah.
the guy that always got thrown out, you know, of the bar or the party. He was the guy that always ended up with a fat lip or a black eye. But then he would go home and he would write this Shakespearean stuff. And it really appealed to me, because it just showed that you don't have to be Lord Byron, you know what I mean, to be a
Yeah.
poet or a writer. You just have to be real.
Yeah, but the detail that you get, I mean, it made me feel that the book makes me, the poetry of like someone being in a seatbelt in a car with a fucking orange cone strapped into them in LA behind Denny's, like waking up, like finding the art in those, all those moments. Like, I don't think everybody's caught LA from before LA. For me, I'm calling my LA, but just the time before, you know, this, when people were growing up on Sabbath and Led Zeppelin. I mean, you say my whole neighborhood smoked pot, and that just captures, that's one of the lines in the book. It captures everything right there.
Well, and also the thing about that whole Hollywood time was that there was no internet, so you could get away with stuff. You could get away with stuff you couldn't get away with now. You could be drunk on. I mean, how many times did we see our idols just drunk on stage?
Oh yeah.
But there was no internet, so it was accepted, and it's not like it is now where you're just a fuck up if you're a
Oh
fuck up.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? But back then, it was just a simpler, cooler time. And a lot of what my books do is they do capture the Hollywood behind the scenes stuff from someone that was there. And it isn't like someone boasting about the conquests or this or that. It's not some sort of tell all. It's more of just being an observer there, seeing what goes on a tour bus, backstage, in the dressing room, on Sunset Boulevard, at the after party. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's just, it's like an observer seeing it. So you're capturing a moment in time, and that's what I think the books are good at. Not only the fictional short stories, which are weird and, you know, dark, but the rock and roll stories. Anyone that's, you know, enjoys rock and roll and grew up with the Guns N' Roses, LA Guns era type stuff is going to immediately identify with the time in that microcosm.
But nobody's written a book this good from that. I've read all the books. We've have a lot of rock bios. Nobody has touched it, dude. I mean, they're even before the strip where you're working at McDonald's and you're like, my house is the party house. We get to see the
Mhm.
lead up. It's the whole spectrum of the thing down to the, Bukowski's ghost at the end. It's wild.
Yeah, you know what, dude? It's just it's I don't know. The the impetus for doing the books was our being stranded for a year and a half, grounded, I guess is a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
way of putting it. And you got to start brainstorming different ways to keep the rent paid. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so I thought, well, fuck, why don't I've been talking about it for years. Why don't I just reissue these books? And you know what I mean? And that's where the whole thing came from, is just us being grounded for a year and a half because of COVID.
And I think the reissuing, I wonder if you would write this fearlessly now, the next one, because they're so fearless. It's like, when you watch a show, go, you couldn't make that show now. I mean,
Yeah.
you couldn't say that now. You couldn't talk about the power of pussy now. You'd be kidding. Yeah, I'll say it, but you couldn't talk that you talk about these things. I don't know that you could do that now, or maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. I
Well,
don't.
no, you would get canceled most
Yeah.
likely. And you're exactly right. When I had to reread these books because I had to fix the formatting, and because the Word documents were corrupted from years ago, so I had to fix it all. And I'm reading it, and I thought, well, fuck, this is gnarly shit.
It really
You got
is.
to stand behind your words, and you're exactly right that some of this stuff is probably pretty, you know, not ready for prime time, I guess.
Yeah, and even you just feel LA. There's one part where you take a girl for a walk in downtown LA. She stayed over, and it's just that the feeling of that walk, the way you capture downtown is just so beautiful, man. It transports you, which is what great writing does.
Well, yeah. I mean, anybody that reads a lot like I have appreciates people like Stephen King or Bukowski or John Connolly or Daniel Silva. I could name 100 authors I dig, but I mean, they transport you somewhere. You read the book so you can get away from the rent and the screaming kids and the the oppression of the 24 hours a day cable TV shit yelling at you, and Netflix telling you what to do. So that's what reading does for me. So I'm glad that you appreciate the fact that that's the intent. The
Yeah.
intent is to open and for 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 pages, you don't know where you are and you don't know where you're going.
Yeah, I found myself savoring it like a good meal where I read a little bit and come back. You can read a section, and I had to think of, some shows you can go all the way through, but certain ones you want to watch each episode and like think about it. And a lot of the early stuff really blew my mind when you're describing just being with friends, watching Jimmy Page, Sabbath, these early band scenarios, just outlaw parents. We all grew up with outlaw 60s and 70s parents. It was
Well, and everybody, I mean, I'm sure you did the same thing I did. You started out playing backyards in
you
bands.
captured that, dude, that taste. It was why I wanted to be in a band. I saw a guy do that, and it almost was that thing I hearing behind the scenes on that. That's way more interesting to me than another guy telling his story of playing the Enormo Dome. We've heard that story.
Yeah, I mean, there's also that kind of stuff as well, but it's more of I don't know. It's an interesting story, and backyard parties. Anybody that did that is going to appreciate it, and is going to remember their own experiences and how fun they were, and it was just music for fun, and you had a bag of weed in your back pocket. Oh, the cops are coming, I better jump the fence, you know what I mean? And just that kind of stuff, when it wasn't a business and it wasn't so serious, and you didn't have to think about selling records and on a spreadsheet and shit like that.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
it
yeah.
was more of was all for fun, and you didn't get paid. Or if you did, you split a pizza. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So it was for real.
As soon as you said that part, it reminded me of being at Freehold Recreation Center and seeing PJ Campanella in a Sabbath Bloody Sabbath vest do a Sabbath song and the Def Leppard Wasted. And he got off stage, and Mindy Stratman, his girlfriend, had a half shirt on. She was deadly. She's probably 18 and but looked a million years old because she was 5 years older than me. Me going, I got to do this. This is where it's at. But it transported me there, man. That whole scene really did.
Well, I mean, I'm trying. I'm on a one-man crusade to get people to start reading again. I'm like Nancy Reagan. I want to get people to just say no to drugs. Well, actually, strike that. People got to quit drugs when they're ready to quit drugs.
Yeah.
And but I want people to read again, because reading is a lost art. It's like, I don't know. You can embrace it and you can love it. You know what I mean? Don't just buy the books to put them on your shelf, and you know what I mean, like merch.
Oh, I've been in the hills when someone's had Russian literature on their shelves. It literally there is furniture. Like they've never read it. They've never even read a book. Yet
I mean, for status or whatever. Yeah. I mean, really. I mean, and angst for the memories and unhappy endings. They're just continuations of a narrative of just shit that I went through. You know what I mean? The backstage shit, the Hollywood trash talk, all the weird shit, that the 2 a.m. rainbow. What's everyone going to do now? Where's everyone going to go? The cabs pull up, you know what I mean? And we all go off to some fucking nightmare.
And I think that's why we all fell in love with the Love Hate albums, because you tasted that. And this is such a continuation of that, because me being a kid watching Love Hate, everybody else is playing the Roxy and very organized. Love Hate's playing 3 songs every Monday at the Whiskey. Jizzy's coming, Skid with the beer can cross. And now that Louie guy's there, and Vicky her name's in a song, and Carol the waitress, and you were documenting where you were playing, and then your lawyer started hanging out, and you got a record deal documenting that exact corner. It really was the Whiskey, that first album. I'll tell you a
funny story. No one ever. I mean, we never thought we were going to get signed. I mean, we had been turned down so many times, over and over and over. And I tell the story, when Junkyard got signed, I flipped out, not because I didn't like them, but because I thought that they had taken the last Wonka golden ticket.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was Mike TV. And I freaked out, because I thought, well, now there's no more record deals left. They're all gone. What am I going to do? You know what I mean? I have no skills. I'm broke. I have no car. What the fuck am I going to do? So I just got drunk and started, hitting myself. And anyway, so we played that Whiskey show, and we got Dennis, our lawyer. You know what I mean?
He was a gang member. That's why I was watching. He was like a gang member with you at that time.
Well, it's weird. It was weird. He got on the train just at the right time. You know what I mean? The train came by, and there was that handle, and he grabbed it at the right time.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't have hung out with us for the 4 years.
You're right. There were a lot of 4 years hanging around. Yeah.
No, nothing against him, but it was like he was the right guy at the right time for us. And then, so we get this record deal. I can't believe it. It's Christmas time. You know what I mean?
In the book, you've said you hate Christmas time if you read the books.
No, I'm sleeping under some girl's Christmas tree, drunk. I wake up the next morning, and it's pine. Where's that pine? And I realize where I am, and I just go, fuck. You know what I mean? This is me on a Tuesday, but I got a record deal now. So it's cool. You know what I mean? I'm a lot cuter now because I have a record deal, apparently. And anyway, so Rock City News comes out. We do that cover of us shaking the beers, like the champagne thing.
Yeah.
And we do that cover, and I'm at the Whiskey, sitting at the bar, and they had a stack of Rock City Newses at the end of the bar, like they always did.
Yeah.
And the rockers would come in, they'd grab a Rock City News, see if their picture was in it, blah, blah, blah. And I remember I was watching guys come up and look at the picture. And and then they would do a double take because it said, Happy New Year from CBS recording artist Love Hate. It's on my wall.
Right, right.
And you could see the guy, you could see his facial expression change from fuck, fuck, fuck. You know what I mean? Because another band had gotten a record deal. And I don't know why. It was just my passive aggressive nature to sit there with a beer and relish it.
Yeah.
After being turned down by every record company for 4 years, finally to be able to sip a beer and relax and watch other people get mad that they don't have record deals.
Yeah. And totally. And I remember actually after one of those nights being in Clark Street in an apartment with you, and I think it was August from Johnny Crash, and you were comparing your record deals and your book. And to me, like Frank Sinatra got a record deal. Like, wait, these guys are in an apartment? I thought guys that had record deals had helicopters and shit. You know what I mean? You guys were sitting there like, wow, this is for real. People get these. They're gonna have that red fucking Columbia record circle on their record.
Yeah.
And he's sitting
But
here.
for me, when they bought me lunch, that would have been enough.
And you know, it's funny, speaking of buying lunch, Jamie and me were talking because we're such huge Jizzy Love Hate fans. You were so cool to us, and I'm sure you don't even remember, but you pulled Jamie. He was like 19. Hey, let me buy you a beer. And he was saying, you enjoyed doing it. You had Dennis there. You knew what you were doing to some little dude. At the same point, you pulled this little rat in and bought him a beer, and he'll never forget it. It was just so fucking cool, man.
I remember people would come up to me at the whiskey when I was hanging out there, and they didn't ask me how I got my record deal. They wanted to know how I drank for free at the whiskey.
That's amazing.
They wanted to know how I got free beer. Cause I was like Fonzie for, a couple of months. Yeah. So it was fun times. Yeah.
I remember the night you played One More Round and just the stops and the bass. That was a newer song, right? One More Round was toward, and it was just such, like you said, that was just another painting, just the music. But this book, I can't wait to get the other two, are just such paintings.
Well, I'll send them to you. You'll enjoy them.
Oh, I can't wait. I want to buy them, and I'm going to put them in the chat. But what's your writing schedule when you were doing them? Do you have a schedule? Do you have a discipline, or does it just when it hits?
Well, I'm writing my 4th book right now, and I'm definitely, I have it in the back of my mind that I don't want it to be the grown-up guy that lost his edge, you know what I mean? Writing about chrysanthemums and, love is in the air, so I have to kind of still keep the fart jokes and the bodiness in there. But as far as writing goes, it's always been a situation of getting the idea, getting the germ of the idea. I suppose writing songs is different because it's a formula, but it's still the same thing. Once you get your chorus of a song, the song can kind of write itself if you've got the germ, the nucleus. And so, like, for example, in my 2nd book, what if a serial killer went for a job interview? What would happen?
Right.
And that's the germ of the idea. So then I sit down and the story sort of writes itself. I mean, I'd like to tell you that it's really hard and backbreaking and stuff, but I'm one of those guys that once I have the idea, I can do 10, 15 pages, and it just kind of like a Ouija board. It just kind of happens.
Well, I've always said, people say writing songs is easy, but living them is hard. You've lived all this stuff. It's the living. You've lived. I know you haven't lived with the serial killer, but you've probably lived with some crazy roommates go for job interviews and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's growing up with the Twilight Zone. It's growing up with dark shit. You know what I mean? All the stuff, like in one of my books, I used to drive strippers around at 3 a.m, at 4 a.m. I was one of those guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was a good way to make money and not have a day job. But, you get home at 5:30 in and run for your life a couple of times from crazy crackheads and stuff like that. But but I mean, it makes for good storytelling. It's a killer, you know what I mean? When you read it, once again, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mr. 9 to 5 guy that works at UPS is gonna go, what the fuck? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
And
So I
that's
mean,
one cool thing I think about reading is it's one of the only things that if you can learn without living something, if you read, you know what I mean? Like I love Jonathan Franzen. I feel like I've learned so much from his books that I don't have to
mhm.
go through, you know what I mean? Just certain things, but you know, you do the living for some people, and someone doesn't even have to be a love-hate fan to just get so much out of these books, man. It's just
Yeah. It's cool, you know. I mean, I'm really glad I reissued them because when I, like I said, I mean, the writing rather, is really strong. I mean, there's a
it
lot
is.
of
It is.
there's power in it. It isn't like a tell-all like a Gene Simmons. It isn't somebody with a microphone talking and going, you know, the band started in 1987, and you know what I mean. It isn't sort of like a Wikipedia
And it's even
thing.
tighter than like some of Jim Morrison or Bukowski. It's tighter. It reads a little faster than them. Bukowski,
Mhm.
obviously, a little. He is Shakespeare of this, but he was a little bloated. This moved pretty fast and nicely too.
Well, good. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I used to think that writing an 8-page short story meant that I wasn't good enough or a good enough writer or whatever. But sometimes you can say what you want to say. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like
And
the story about the pipe, the crackheads.
yeah,
I mean, you don't have to get into it too much because, as you say, then you're just filling it and puffing it up and this and that. You want it to be like boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? And then I don't know. It's just it's like it's the difference between a 50-yard dash and a mile run. You know what I mean? You
yeah,
know, at the 50-yard dash, it's got boom energy.
yeah. That, and I got to be honest. I love you and your music so much. I was scared the first round when this came out, but the title, I was like, that's a pretty good fucking title. All the
Mm-hmm.
titles are obviously genius. And I was scared because what if you know, when you get something and you're let down,
Yeah.
and fucking got it. And dude, just like, that's why I was assaulting you to talk to you. Like, oh my God, it's so fucking good, dude. Just so fast and so,
Well, when I send you the other ones, you'll get, especially my second one, Angst for the Memories, is very it even dives even deeper into the Sunset Strip,
okay.
the men, the women, the interactions, all the trash nonsense, all the trash in vaudeville, for want of a better word.
You know what's
And
crazy?
you'll dig it
Oh,
because
I
you were
can't
there,
wait.
and you'll dig it. You know what I mean? You'll go, fuck, I was in Vietnam when,
Totally.
you know what I mean,
Some
during the
people
Tet
didn't make it
Offensive,
back.
motherfucker. You
Some
know what I
people
mean?
didn't make it back from Nam, right? So yeah, Rock is the new
Exactly.
Vietnam. To quote Dean,
Exactly.
that's Dean Del Rey's quote. Rock is the new Vietnam. Some soldiers didn't make it back, man. But what I
Or they just, or they just faded away.
yeah,
You know, that's the hardest thing is the older you get. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 fucking years. I mean, Blackout in the Red Room came out in 1990. I mean, that's ancient history. You know what I mean? That's like Jurassic Park
yeah, yeah.
compared to now. And people don't remember, when Guns N' Roses Appetite came out. I had no car, and I get on the bus because I had to take the bus, and kids would come on the bus with the cassette of Appetite, holding it like pistols.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
it made me move to California. It's enough to
Yeah.
make me move across the coast. You
I
know what I
mean,
mean?
that's the power of music, and it'll never ever be like that again. And now the older I get, I am a fucking survivor. There's a couple of us out there, you know what I mean, that are like Tracy Guns
Yeah.
and other guys that are still as good or better than they were then, but they're just wiser. You know what I mean? They use their energy better. You know what I mean? And that's the difference. Is that's what you got to do when you're an old dude. You just gotta you're good. You know you can deliver the goods, but you just gotta be smart about it. Don't stay up till 3 a.m. anymore. Don't
Yeah.
don't get in that strange car with that strange girl. You know what I mean? That kind of nonsense.
But even back in the day, we would spy on you because you were our heroes, like watching Jim Morrison, like, and you were doing like kung fu in the fucking hills, wasn't that right? When everybody else was sleeping, I remember you up early, like doing martial arts. What kind of martial arts were you doing?
That was Tai Chi. That was that kind of
Okay.
that slow thing. I did that for years and years and years. It really helped mellow me out from all the craziness that was going on and stuff, especially when you're on the road. I mean, your ego can go crazy when you're playing arenas. All of a sudden, I remember a story, Christopher Reeve, when he first did that Superman movie.
Yeah.
He said in an interview, he goes, for a year and a half after that movie came out, I kind of thought I was Superman.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Because it's like rock staritis.
Yeah.
I mean, I started playing clubs, and then we did theaters with Dio, and then bigger places, and then I'm playing, arenas with AC/DC. I mean, how can that not fuck with your head?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And then, so it was good. That was good for me to have to sort of ground me when all that shit was going on.
But not many people were doing shit like that back then. They're doing it now. We're all doing it now, drinking soda water and that, but you were doing it then, always ahead of your time. What were you like in high school, man? I've always wondered I mean, you say a little bit in here, but what was your high school years? And you were in California for high school, right?
I was kind of a goofy dude. I was kind of
And where did you grow up in what part?
I grew up in the Valley in Chatsworth. Went to Chatsworth High. Was in the drama class. You know what I mean? Because that's where all the outcasts go.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh, totally.
Back then, drama class was for the people that were weird or gay before
Yeah,
it was cool to be gay.
yeah,
You
yeah.
could be gay in drama class, and everyone accepted you.
Right, right.
And and it was just that it was a. I tended to gravitate towards the intellectual eccentric, but I didn't have a sense of self. That's probably my biggest limitation when I was in high school, that I didn't know what I was going to be. I know that I wanted to be a musician, but I just didn't. You don't know how to do it. I mean, there's no handbook for any of this.
No,
You know what I
no.
mean? You just play music, and it happens or it doesn't happen. And so that's kind of, it was kind of I guess high school was sort of confusion. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
Hence all the hallucinogenic
Yeah,
drugs,
yeah, yeah.
the LSD and the peyote and the pot and the, you know what I mean? I was trying to find myself through, I don't know, the doors of perception, for want of a
Yeah.
better word.
It feels like you have an apartment pretty quickly in this, like your parents were a little outlaw and you got an apartment pretty quickly by the way the book flows. It seems like you did a lot of apartment time with roommates very
Well, of
quickly.
course, everyone
Yeah.
did. It's just, it was a,
I
it
guess
was a
that's
different
true. I did
time.
at 18. I don't even, yeah, yeah, I
Well,
guess.
but some people, I guess when David Lee Roth was young, he already knew what he wanted to do. He already looked like David Lee Roth.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Prince and maybe Madonna, it's like they just emerged fully formed,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, out of a chrysalis, and they're what they are. You know what I mean? But other people like me took it. I ended up wanting to sing. I used to sing to Rainbow, Ronnie James Dio, and Led Zeppelin, and The Who. And so if you took Ronnie James Dio, Robert Plant, and Roger Daltrey, and kind of put them in a blender, it ended up, that's what I think I sound like
Yeah. Oh,
now.
it makes sense.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But back then, I mean, I was writing songs with dragons in them
Yeah,
because,
yeah, the
hey,
wizard rock.
if
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
good enough for Ronnie, you know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. Now, before we go, do you know Kim Fowley? Do you remember? Of course, you've done
I
LA.
do remember him, yes.
Kim worked with our band, and he said, if you really want to be a great rock star, be it Axl, be it Kurt Cobain, you have to rock and roll is a cross, and you have to nail yourself to it because that's what people want to see. And you
Yeah.
been
But
associated,
but he didn't mean it literally.
but you have been you have been kind of associated there's a cross theme with you with being on the cross, and it's like a for what you do. Love Hate Show started out with the beer can cross. This cross, it's
Well, yeah, the whole Hollywood sign thing was
yeah.
that was me. Um, we couldn't get a record deal in town. We'd been turned down by everyone, and I kept seeing the Hollywood sign up there, and you know how it's a magnet. It draws people.
Yeah,
It drew you.
yeah.
The
First thing
dream.
I did was climb that sign when you could
Yeah,
still climb it. Yeah.
yeah, the dream. It represented the dream, and after a while, it would taunt me. I would drive past it, and it would taunt me, and so I figured, maybe the only way to make it in Hollywood is a good old fashioned blood sacrifice. And so that's where that whole idea of hanging myself on the Hollywood sign came about.
Because it says a lot. It says a lot. And these books, man, are just so good, man. And I'm so excited to get all three. And I got to tell you, I really, when I got it, I was so nervous, and I just tore through it. I'm on my second time through. It just paints such a picture of these sweaty apartments. And you know what? It also made me realize rock and roll, even at successful level, it's a lot of killing time.
Mm.
A lot of killing days and knocking out days. Hollywood's about whether you're a rock god or not, you're killing time, and you really document and make it such a on a Norman Rockwell level. You just make killing time at times so beautiful and large.
Well, if you remember living at that time and stuff, it was just, I don't know. It was like being a cop. Boredom, 23 hours a day,
You're
and
totally.
then
I tasted
crazy fucking energy.
totally dead on.
You know what I mean? That's kind of how what it was like. It's just like you're waiting for this next intense experience that's going to happen, and it was all good times. I mean, when I lived with those guys, I didn't have any money, and I didn't really have a car, but it was okay because I felt like I was on the train to somewhere. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
the band was good. I knew we were good, even though everyone thought we sucked in Hollywood and in town and the record companies. Everyone hated us for a short period of time, but I always thought that we were good, and I persevered. And that's probably maybe stronger than talent, is just having that ability to say fuck you to all the naysayers.
Oh,
You
you
know what I
have
mean?
to. I'm friends with Tony Slash's dad, and when Slash brought him to the first GNR show, he said, "Oh, band's great, but singer just screams too much. You should get rid of that singer." You know
Well,
what I
that
mean?
happened. That happened to me. I played Madame Wong's one time, and I don't know if you remember, but they used to have those booths, like the
I
U-shaped
do. That was where
booths.
we played. I just saw Picture of Guns first. That was a big fucking
Hmm.
round to get shit.
Wong's was killer. Wong's
Yeah,
was great. I
that's
mean, it
another.
was
That's a. You could write a book on that.
that's like there was like 6 or 7 different rooms, kind of like how the Knitting Factory
Yeah,
sort of had different. You could, or Scream back in the old days,
yeah.
you could go.
But you're
But
leaving
anyway,
Hollywood to go there. So you're leaving. You're a little bit
yeah.
outside. You're going somewhere. You need a girl
Oh, it
with a
was
car to
crazy.
go there. Yeah.
But I remember some A&R guy came and saw us one of 100 times, and they were all in one booth, and he was talking to them, and the whole band was there and him, and I was in the next booth, but they didn't know it. And so this A&R guy proceeded to tell the band how I sucked and how they needed to get rid of me and how I was holding them back and how he would be interested if they just got rid of their singer, blah, blah. And I'm literally over here, you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah.
but to be able to take that and put it back down in your stomach and not quit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just say, fuck it. Who is this guy? Doesn't know his ass from the hole in the ground. And and the band said the same thing. They just, fuck you, thanks. So yeah, I mean that should happen all the time. It's funny.
It's crazy. Well, thank you so much, Jizzy. This has been great. And everybody's got to get these books. And I can't wait for the next one. I'll put links. They need the trilogy. I'm getting the trilogy. I'm clicking on as soon as we're done and getting it. You're not sending it to me. You put your blood and sweat in these. When's the next one? When do you think? Yeah, any idea when the next one might come?
Well, I'm about 220 pages in,
Okay.
so it's almost done.
Wow.
I don't know, 6 months maybe. I don't know. I have a long, hot summer of Quiet Riot touring
Right.
to do, which is great. Obviously, me and 100 other guys are we're in the we're in the we're at the track meet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the starting line, ready to
Yeah.
go, because
Yeah.
it's been
Yeah.
a year and a half
I know. I
since
DJ.
any of
I've
us.
been back 10 weeks back. It's amazing watching how
Yeah.
people relearn to go out. It's wild.
It's hard, man. It's
Yeah.
like training for a prize fight, because you don't realize that it's been so long. You know what I mean? And so you gotta go out there and you gotta take it seriously. I mean, some people don't take it seriously, hence the bad YouTubes. But you know what I mean? I'm looking forward to getting out there and playing again, and just the routine, the
Yeah.
routine of the pre-gig and the
Yeah.
butterflies, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean, and all that good stuff, the stuff that I've been doing for ever and ever and ever, and never gets old. I'm always nervous, and it's always fun. You know what I mean? And I guess when it stops being fun, then I won't do it anymore.
Makes sense, man. Well, thank you so much. And stay on so I can say goodbye. And I'll be talking to you soon, man.